how to actually take your animations and bring them into Xcode and animate that sprite node that you've created for your Xcode project. So first thing you do is you export it from Pascal. You can name this whatever you'd like here. You'll title it Face and download the zip, and it'll export to wherever you save it to, and you should have a folder then that looks like this. Okay, so it'll have your two files within there. Every frame is a separate file. What we'll do next is start our Xcode project and use this as a sprite node. So I'm going to do a game application here with the game template. The name will just be face sample, and it's a Swift language, it's a spriteKit, it's an iPhone. Click next. Great, save it to wherever, doesn't really matter right now for this. As you can see, you have a lot of preset stuff. GameKit comes with a nice framework template that kind of shows you some of the basic operations that you'll use. If you've used it already, you can go ahead and delete all this stuff. If not, I would highly recommend checking it out. Just kind of clean your code up so that you are ready to start putting in our sprites. So you've got three functions. I erased everything in those three functions but left the functions themselves. Did move to view, touches began, and update, all very important ones if you're creating a game in spriteKit. The other thing I'll usually do is go to my game view controller and change the scale mode to resize fill. Okay, now that we're ready to start, we got to import our graphics. So I go to my assets folder. It comes with a little default spaceship image that if you're not going to use, you can just delete. And I'll bring in my Pascal folder. You'll see there's two images, face 0, face 1. Great, ready to get started here. We'll go back to our game scene.swift file and get started. First thing, create a var that will be our node, our SK sprite node. I'm going to call it face. It's of type SK sprite node. Okay. And now we can go and start creating a function that will put all of these images into place and animate them. So we create a function called createFace. Below our functions that come with the template file here. So the createFace has no parameters, but in here is where we're actually going to set all the images and animations, and then we'll call this in the didMoveToView function here. So first thing we'll do is set an image to our spriteKit node. So we'll call this face texture, and we'll set it equal to SK texture. And here we'll say the image we want to place into that SK texture. If you don't remember, go back to your assets folder. Mine's called face 0. Very important that you type it exactly, otherwise it won't find that. It goes in a string. So mine's all lowercase, face 0. That's the image that I want to place onto this spriteKit node. Make sure I spell texture right. It pops an error because I haven't used that let yet, or a warning, not an error. Great, so now I can call on that face texture, and I can, that face variable of the spriteKit node that I made up top here, and I will say SK sprite node and the texture. So now we're actually going to instantiate that variable face with a face texture that we just made. Okay, so now we should have an image that shows up. Okay, if I go to add child here and I say face and do a couple other positioning steps here. So I'll say face dot xscale equals CG point, and we'll put this in the middle. So Middx puts it in the middle of the frame. Frame.midY puts it vertically in the middle of the frame. Mid Y. Okay. I had the wrong property there. I want to change position and put it at X and Y here. So just to recap, the face is there. I'm adding the face texture to my actual node. I'm putting the position right in the center, and I'm adding it to adding the child to the view. Now this has to be called. We haven't called it yet. And so now I won't see any animation, but I will see the face, hopefully, if all goes well. To animate, it's only a few more steps, so once you have the picture there, it's pretty easy to do the rest. And so here's my image, smiley face right in the center. Not too exciting just yet, but let's add just a few more steps. So this can come after you add the child. We can say let frame 2, so we're going to add an additional frame. I'm just calling it that to my node. We'll call this skTexture image named, and then remember I have a file in there called face1. Let's just double check the spelling there, make sure I have it right. Face1, yes, that's good. Okay. Great. So we have a texture called face1. Let's make an animation constant here. So we'll use skAction, and we'll say .animate with textures, because we have a bunch of textures we're going to animate with now. It takes an array of textures, so my textures that I want to use would be first my face texture, so I'll call that face texture, and then I want to use the new one that I just made, which is frame 2. How long do you want that to take to animate between each frame? So this number will specify exactly how long you want it to show up for. If you go back here and look at your sample, you can probably see what it's going to look like. So 4 frames per second looks pretty nice. Let's try to get somewhere around that. So let's say like 0.25 for the times per frame there. Great. So now it's saying that I'm going to flash these 2 textures for 1/4 of a second. We want to specify how often that has to happen. So I'm going to call on my face node, and I'm going to say run this action, and I'm going to say skAction dot repeat action forever, so it's going to loop over and over. And which do I want to repeat? I want to repeat this animation. So now I'm going to put my animation in here, and that should be all you need to actually animate the face. If I stop and run, everything should be good to go now. Again, very simple animation to get you started. Next thing we'll show you is physics, how to implement physics onto the piece, but you'll see the face is now animating, just flashing those two pictures back and forth. You can mess with the time frame. You can add more than one texture, or more than two textures, I should say. This is just the bare basics. So good luck.